Today, we're going to be talking about Dimensius P1 some, as well as a little bit on P2 and P3. Basically, I want to reiterate a couple of things in different terms than I did originally, because I don't know if the point exactly got across, but Dimensius is a boss that you don't necessarily wipe to due to execution gap. It's not realistically a. I don't think anything on Dimensius particularly, except for a little bit of P2 and a little bit of P3 with the inverse gravity crushing gravity, is that hard execution wise. I think most of what Dimensius challenges you in is consistently being correct with your positioning and consistently having the knowledge of what to do next and where to be for that. So a lot of the wipes on Dimensius can be removed by just understanding the placement of things, including your defensives, obviously, because everything in the fight does a lot of damage. So with that being said, in P1, I just want to go over some positional ideas for what would be the best in general for majority of specs. Now, on pull doesn't necessarily matter. You just kind of kill these masses and then go. But whenever we get to this knockback, generally, unless you have to immune the knockback or immuning the knockback is extremely easy for your spec, there's really no point to immune the knockback, right? Because you're just introducing an extra failure point that isn't necessary to be there. So, for
Damn, why it's not
example,
even here?
you see that these people are just, this is a mage, and they don't immune the knockback, and they just let it knock them back, and then once they're done, they can get into their position afterwards. Because it's more consistent to do it this way than it is to try and immune the knockback and then fail a couple of times and then die because of it over the course of 250 pulls. If you're immuning in the knockback every single time and you feel like there's a chance that you fuck it up, then the better course of action would be to not immune the knockback and just allow it to knock you back and use your movement afterwards, rather than immuning it if it's in any way inconsistent. Now, this includes the spread knockback afterwards, which we'll talk about. Generally, after each knockback, you should just instantly go to your assigned spread position. That way you can go ahead and see where people are and again remove some of the difficulty. And then you should be playing on the living masses as best as you can and soak. Now, pathing into the soak doesn't particularly matter. But like we talked about, so that you don't pick up these living masses, the best way to handle this soak is by standing in the direct center of it as a range player and then going straight back and straight over so that you never pick up a living mass, or going straight left and straight back so that you never pick up a living mass if you are the one in the front right here or the one in the back over here. It's just the best option for routing so that you never have to think, hey, is there a living mass in my way? All you do is you just hold A, or you just hold S, or you just hold D, whatever you have to hold for which side you're on, and then that's all that happens. So as long as you route appropriately to this, you have plenty of time, and you'll never have to touch anything. Then those people that have these excess masses, if you're picking them up, it's a very simple idea of you should be soaking. These come out. Once you see that the soak is pretty much done, now you go grab. Before they go up, they should be grabbed, and then you suck instantaneously, trying to pre-position outside of where the people are to go ahead and suck them down as quick as possible, because obviously we're losing quite a bit of damage by having the DPS in the air, and typically it will be DPS players that are in the air because everyone else is grabbing the excess masses. So the next knockback happens, and this is where you can use your immunes and immediately again go to your spread position. Instead of waiting, don't wait, just pre-position there, and then go and hit the mass. And again, we get our routing rules. Then, whenever we get close to this next devour, so we do this, we go ahead and pick up the masses. We do the quick suck down here. If you are not a person that is sucking down, your best course of action is to be stacking on the gate for healing, particularly if you're on the right side because there's a preservation evoker. But stacking on the right side for the healing will be very good on the gate. On both sides, it's going to be very good. But I would say everyone should just be stacked on the gate, ready to go. And then for the people that could benefit from potentially gating early, which would be people that are using rallies or rewind or any sort of raid cooldown like that, or someone that's placing an AMZ, I think it is ideal that you go ahead and just rip that and go as quick as possible. So just something to keep in mind. And a small optimization for healing. Generally, whenever there is a 3 seconds left on this timer, you should be gating. If you haven't gated by that point, you're probably going to die just from healing, and you might die in the gate. Make sure, it's important with this Devourer, that you're healthy before you take the gate, because you will get ticked down at least once during the gate, which means that you're going to take quite a bit of damage. So watch your HP as you gate here. You can pop a big defensive here, then gate, then you should be perfectly fine. You can see not everyone in the raid pops a defensive, but quite a few people do that have a low CD defensive. Again, knockback straight into the spread spots. And this is where we have to be very careful with where we're placing and where we're routing, because if you were to accidentally pick up the living mass, then again, we just wipe at the end here. We suck these in, and then we get the final massive smash directly afterwards, which you just pre-spread in any location whatsoever, and then you go ahead and kill the boss. Now, after P1, we're still playing this game of, okay, this execution is not very hard. We just need to know exactly where to stand. And in the case of P2, this answer is the same no matter who you are, and no matter the platform. The only thing that changes is whether you're doing a line or the L, like we talked about with the inverse gravities. So positionally, this phase has 3 options. Option number 1 would be you are a melee and you do not get targeted by a line. Option number 2 is you are a range and you have no line. And option number 3 is that you are a person targeted by the line. So no matter what, all range would be stacking here. This is just the range stack point. All melee would be stacking here. This is just the melee stack point, period. Once the lines come out, both melee and range just rotate to their right. And they are now sitting here, and range will then move up to join the melee. If you get targeted by a line, you just stand still. The melee line will go through the middle of the room right here, and the range lines will go somewhere generally in this vicinity, and that's it. It's just that simple, and you do this for every single quadrant. There's no difference on any of the quadrants. It's just the same thing repeated over and over and over again, and this positioning logic applies for every single section of P2. So since we know we have those 3 groups, you know where to stand once you get here. You know where you're going. So you rotate right, then you rejoin the melee group after those go out, and then you go with them while hitting this Void Warden. Very important the range you're hitting this Void Warden whenever we first get here. This is likely going to be the thing that we wipe to first. Then we get the gravity set where you have your pre-positioned and pre-assigned locations to go. I will assign very, very loose spread spots once we know exactly what we're dealing with tomorrow. But in general, it's not that hard to be able to figure out your spots. And again, we know that with these lines that we get, the people that get the lines stay, everyone else goes. So people that got the lines, they stay, they wait on the lines to happen, then they go. Make sure that you're aware these lines do knock you back. So if you're too close, if we look at our little evoker here, who's getting knocked back on right here, you'll see that they get knocked back. So don't be too close to the edge, or else you are going to die. So we do the pushback, and then we go back to our 3 positions. So range, you're in their position. Melee are in their position. You rotate to the right after the frontal. So rotating to the right, and then you're under the boss, killing the null binders, and then after the dodge rock thing comes up, then you kill the boss. And here again, we're doing the L, which is the same idea for the positioning, and it's just the same in P2. It's very simple stuff. So,
question.
Yeah.
On the second line there, was the melee line still going through the center of the room? Because I just frankly did not see it.
Yeah, it was.
So it just like justified the other direction than it is the first one.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that.
So by understanding these positional ideas in P1 and P2, there's really not much else to do other than just the throughput check and understanding where to place your defensives. On Dimensius P1, defensives are very dependent on what spec/class you are, but generally you need a defensive for every single massive smash spread combo, and you need a defensive for most likely the second devour. So that means that we're talking about anytime you're immuning a knockback, so knockback 2 and 4, you probably want to press a defensive there, both on the knockback and the spread directly following. And then anytime that we are going to that second devour, you really need to think about pressing defensive pending what your HP is at. You could try to be a little bit looser with that, but I would recommend trying to script something like maybe a 60-second, 45-second defensive there is very good, or a double charge defensive is probably worth it. Now, in P2, these gravities definitely hurt. It is definitely a good spot to press defensives on. You can see a lot of them did. The winds, not so much. They don't really do much damage. The healers can just heal you through this. And there's really not much threat in P2 in general. It's just not a high damage phase. So you can kind of chill out. The biggest importance in P2 is how you're orienting the damage that you're dealing, which should be at the beginning. Range should start cleaving on to our little boy over here, and you should also be nuking these guys down. Once the null binders are dead, ranged are swapping to targeting the Void Warden. Then after the Void Warden is dead, then ranged are swapping to targeting Pargoth. So null binders die, ranged are all full hitting this Void Warden over here. Then once this Void Warden is dead, then we all swap to Pargoth. That is generally how you should orient your DPS during this phase, because we're probably going to have to hold damage. So damage on, same as P1, where damage on the living masses is more important than damage on the actual boss itself. It's the same thing in P2, where damage on the Void Wardens and the Null Binders is significantly more important than the damage on the Big Ad itself, because we will definitely meet the Big Ad damage check almost no matter what. We will not definitely meet the damage check on the smaller ads. The only exception to this are the people that are really, really crazy funnel specs. They are allowed to funnel the boss. So, since that was very quick, I will try and give the same type ideas for P3 as far as positional ideas. Now, whenever it starts, obviously stay grouped together. And generally, how P3 should look is the more that the raid is stacked on each other, the better we're probably doing. So this means that if you are currently sitting and you are by yourself, unless you're somebody that is skipping rings, which definitely can be, or you're in number 4, then it doesn't really make sense for you to be by yourself. You probably should just be with the general group. The reason why is because it makes it just a lot more consistent that we're not going to have random deaths to people getting booped. Now, people that are skipping the rings or in number 4, you guys obviously are allowed to, because you naturally have to go to different positions because of the fact that you're skipping the ring. But if you're not skipping the ring, no reason why you guys should be stacked on each other. And then again, we can use the pinging, and you can understand where you need to go, rather than having to kind of look across the boss and have any risk of getting booped by a tank. So just understanding that, and then pre-positioning for any mechanic that happens. Holy fuck, Beck, what are you even doing, my man?
I just put shit in my throat. I apologize.
I
thought it was good.
So
Pulling a long name. I apologize.
whenever you are playing this phase, just understand that if I'm not stacked, unless I just skipped a ring, I probably should be stacked. Then we again have these gravities, and for each gravity, just generally understand that you need to personally be responsible for not getting sucked into a planet. Primarily, if you have the crushing gravities, you are the one responsible for making sure that your little line to the tank, so this little squiggly purple line that we have here, is not going through any of these planets or black holes or the boss. Not always 100% possible, but definitely something that you need to be actively considering. And again, P3 is pretty simple outside of that. It's just stay stacked, understand the middle, left, and right for the positionings on the inverse gravities and crushing gravities. And outside of that, it's just hit the boss and live for DPS players. And for healers, it's just press your healing buttons. The only people that actually have any sort of a difficult job in this phase is tanks until you get to the last two overlaps, which are absolute nightmare difficulty for everyone in the raid. We luckily will likely kill this boss. Maybe I'm going to guess that our boss will probably die right after this. So we will get this suck in, and then we will get the rings, and then our boss will very likely be dead. I think it would be surprising if the boss was not dead after these rings. And the first rings in P2 or in P3 at the very end are not that difficult after the second of hour. So just something to keep in mind. Are there any questions on like some positional ideas on all of the fight, or any other questions on the fight?
I did have a question about the crushing gravities on platforms. I believe it's the first set. It's just like the basic line. It's not the L, just the
Correct.
straight line. How close? So the people who are on like the outer part of the circle, or I guess the inner part of the platform, how close are they to the danger zone? Especially in the middle and the group in the back.
What do you mean the danger zone?
Like, so he throws the planet, and that part of the platform is bad to stand on because it just
Oh.
one-shots you. How close is that to?
That is generally in line with the third guy. So like this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. It's generally in the line like in between 2 and 3 is the danger zone. I
Okay,
believe.
so it's actually like a little safer than it looks.
Yeah.
That looks super stressful. Like that looks super tight when you watch
like
it.
for example here, they are safe as long as they are beyond this point. So
Okay.
they're actually chilling quite a bit. The animation is a little bit larger than, or a little bit smaller than it seems.
That's what you get told every single time.
Which one was the healer soak again? Was that the middle one?
Yes.
Okay.
And for part 3, I know it's the weak aura assigning the positions for the 4 crushing gravities, where you need like 5 people in each one, I think. Is that pre-assigned, or is that complete just what the weak aura says?
Hard pre-assigned, except for 3 people, which would be Quonksy, Justin, Crow currently, but probably it'll end up being Quonksy, Justin, and someone else. So otherwise,
Big
if
link
you are
to it.
not those 3 people, then you just go stand in the same one every single time, no matter what.
Okay. And then I was personally struggling with part 1 puddle placement, as it is related to the gate. And I wanted to see, is our gate in the wrong spot? Am I in the wrong spot? Or is Drew Tile in the wrong spot? That's forcing me to be in the wrong spot. I was trying to
Just
sort that out.
It's pretty simple. I mean, just don't put it on the gate, don't put it on the marker, and even if you're not technically in your spot, then it'll be fine. And don't put it at the front of the marker either. But the gate and the marker should be lined up with each other. Because if they're not lined up with each other, then yes, the gate would be in the incorrect spot. But generally, they should be pretty lined up. It's just as simple as that whole lane is banned. So being like this whole lane right here is banned because that's the suck down lane. If you see at the end of their P1, whenever they have all this poop. The only
Yeah, like
lane
that-
that's
that whole
available,
area is clear.
yeah, the only lane that's available is this suck down lane, right? So everywhere else is completely covered, but the suck down lane is open. So as long as the suck down lane is open, then it's perfectly fine. You cannot place anything on the marker or on the gate at the front. Anything else? Right, fantastic. That's all we have to talk about for today. I don't really want to get too
Sweet.
deep into mechanical ideas of P3 yet. So we will yap about P3 potentially next Sunday. There's a very, very small chance this boss is dead. I wouldn't expect that necessarily, but it's a possibility, I guess. But probably next Sunday will be all about P3 and trying to optimize P3. And maybe some damage stuff in P2.
Which